Hello there and welcome back. In this video, we are going to take a look at the OpenAPI integration of the BlackSheep Python module and jump right into it. So let's open up our favorite text editor. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. And in the other window, we are going to navigate to the virtual environment. So we have the sheeping, and here the source BSheep activate fish, and technically that's it. Here we are going to create a child node which is called OpenAPI integration.py. All right, let's take it for a test drive, so to speak. So technically, if we want to add OpenAPI integration, we can use what you have learned in the previous video. So technically the OpenAPI, or rather the getting started with the MVC video is what I'm talking about. But you can basically start from scratch. Here is how we can do it. What we have to do is to import from BlackSheep the application and let's say the get function. Now what we want to do is to import from BlackSheep.server.openapi.v3 the OpenAPI handler class, and from OpenAPI docs.v3 import info. Now we can create our application and then create a docs variable. This docs is going to be the instance of the OpenAPI handler class, and the info is going to be an info instance, and here we say that the title is going to be OpenAPI example, and it will have a version which is going to be 0.0.1. Then we say that we want to use the docs bind app called on the application instance. So this is how we tie together these two objects. Let's create a data class, and this class is going to represent servers, and each server is going to have a name which is a string, and should we do this UUID? Oh, let's make it the UUID. So the ID is going to be UUID, and from UUID we import UUID. This is how we do it, and what's also important is to import from the data classes module the data class decorator. Alright, now we have our class and we can create our context root. Let's call this, hold on, the keyboard bindings, server, and we will use the async def with the get server, and technically it is going to return what should it return? A server instance, and we return a server where the ID is going to be UUID4 and the name is going to be DNS. So for this to work, we have to import the UUID4 as well. Alright, now let's give it a save and navigate to the other window and take it for a test drive. So we have the uvicorn command, and we want to use the OpenAPI integration. All right. So now what we need is a browser. So let's copy this one and move to the other window. And here we want to make sure that we paste the URL. It says that the resource was not found, but if I move to the docs, or rather let's go to the server, as you can see, every time I refresh it, I get a different UUID, and here comes the fun part. So here we have the OpenAPI documentation, and let's make it a bit smaller. So currently here we can see the title, which I have just defined in the source code. So this one, and we also have the version, and here we have the context route. And for this context route, as you can see, it doesn't have any parameters, and technically the response is going to be what you see here. And if you want to try it out, you can see this was the response, and every time we hit the context route, we get a different response, but the name is the same. We could also randomize it, but for now it should be fine. So let's go back to our script and see what else we have here. We can also specify with the docs decorator what type of responses the actual context route is going to return. So for example, if I say that the docs decorator responses is equal to, let's make it this one, 200, and the text is going to be a server instance with unique UUID. Now, if I go ahead and save it, the uvicorn should pick up that this has changed. And if we go back to our browser and check what is here, you will see that upon reloading, where is the reload? Here we have the response which was just defined. All right, let's go back to the script and see what else we have here. You have seen the response, and we can also further improve it. So we have defined the responses, and we also have the option, let me restructure it, to define a summary. This should be a string, so this context route returns a server. So this is going to be like the argument for the decorator. Description should be, this is just a demo app, and we also have the responses. And if I am to save it and the application restarts, let's reload our browser, and here you can see the description, and here you can see the summary. All right, let's take it for another spin. So here we have seen how we can define the summary, the description, the responses, and what we can also do is to say that we don't want a context route in the response or in the OpenAPI documentation. And we can do it the following way. So let's call this hidden, and the async def hidden context. It should return a string, and we return this is hidden from the API docs. Let's save it. And if you go back to our browser and refresh it, you can see that this context root is present. In order to hide it, what we can do is to say that we want to use the @docs.ignore. Let's save it. And if I refresh now, you can see that this documentation was ignored. All right. Let's see what else we have. We have this one, and if we want, we can document specific routes only. For example, we start with I don't know, server. So for example, if I go ahead and use the hashtag, what is the hashtag? Let's just document it out. All right. So let's get back to it. Here we want to go ahead and use the following. Below this OpenAPI handler, we can use the docs.include. And in this docs.include, we can say that we want to use a lambda function. And this is going to take the path and the throwaway variable. And we could say that the path starts with server. And this would mean that despite I didn't explicitly say that this should be ignored, it is going to be ignored. But for this to work, let's see. Okay, this was restarted. Let's go back to the OpenAPI. And as you can see, after refreshing, that context root was ignored. All right. So technically, that was all I wanted to show you in this video. There are many more features of this OpenAPI docs, which you can use to customize your API documentation. But for this video, that was all that I had planned. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.